Okay. All right. It's going.
Okay, so we're past 2. We'll go ahead and call it in session. And we could just start with public safety if,
Okay.
Neil, if that works for you, and
Absolutely.
go through updates and anything else you might have, and welcome back.
Thank you. It was really nice to be able just to, and then we had the wedding and everything, so it was great to be able just to go and decompress and you get a new renewal whenever something like that happens.
Yep.
So we're hitting the ground running. The training, I'm going to have to do that all by hand.
Ooh,
Our
okay.
new system is still not up and running.
Okay.
They have it in there, but they're still not able to print anything off.
Okay.
So what I'm going to end up doing, and I'm hoping to have it before the next board packet, is just write down in a Word document what we had, when we had it, and everything, so that way we can still put it in there, and that way you guys can still see what we have going on, or what we
Yeah.
had going on.
Hate to ask you to do all that, but I think,
I think it's important. So
I think
I'm
it's,
totally on board with it too. It's
Yeah,
not
we
an
appreciate
issue.
that.
Yeah, because I think it's important for everybody to know what kind of trainings we are doing. So I'm totally 100%
yeah.
willing to do that.
Will it, at some point, you be able to, will they be able to update the software that you'll be able to just print that out then, or?
That's the idea. The idea behind this whole system. So the last system that we have or had it was called the Acadis portal. You go in there, and I mean, it was easy. I did it every year for Sersha. They would come in and they would request our training, and it was one thing. You put it down there, it prints everything out on an Excel spreadsheet, and it was done. This was supposed to mimic that. It was supposed to be the same way, but they, like I showed you that one time, they still don't have it in order.
Yeah.
They still don't have any kind of a search function to where you can do it by dates or anything like that. So, and then you still can't print it off. So I actually have Lauren, he's going to take over the training portion of entering in the training and everything. So I have him actually working on Benchmark, which is the program, and contacting them and seeing maybe if we're doing something wrong, or
Right.
if
Good.
there's going to be an update and when the updates are going to happen.
Yeah.
So
you do have to submit training to CIRSA, the training that
we get bonuses.
we do.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get like bonus points, I guess is what they call
They're
them.
credits.
Yeah, credits on
Credits.
Public
Um,
Works has the best ranking and rating habitually for the town in credits for our insurance.
So they come in and they audit us once a year.
Okay.
Usually they'll come in, they'll want to see our training, we'll give them our training log, and then they'll want to see our policies, make sure our policies and procedures are up to par and everything else too. And then they give you a little bit of a bonus, or not a bonus, but a credit or something on your things.
So if nothing else, this might help with that as well.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that was usually in July.
We would get the report in July. He usually tried to come in April, but Larry Cardamone was our representative, and he retired last year, so they're still going through the process, and a lot of our CIRSA audit was electronic and remote, of course, especially for 2020 and then going into this year.
Yeah, right. That makes
So
sense.
we actually haven't had that real audit for a little while, and
Yeah.
that's just all up to Sersha. They basically just say, hey, you come,
Right.
we're coming.
Right.
Right,
You know.
right.
And the way it works with the insurance, the credits, they work as you get credits because showing that you're doing these things, showing that you have updated policies reduces risk.
Yeah.
So
And
you
they
get
have their
credits for
own
that.
website too that we actually do trainings on. So they have a Sersha website that we can go and do online training and stuff.
Yeah.
And they get little bonus points for those as well.
Right.
Yeah, I do them all the time.
Right.
Good.
Yeah, so they're good to have, and that was one of the main reasons why we wanted to get the projector a couple of years ago, is so that way we could sit down and then have, our Sersha trainings. For our driving training every year, except for last year, we had a Sersha representative come in and do our driving training. So anytime that we can use that training, we try to. because it just looks good, you know, with,
Right.
with the Sersha, so.
Yeah.
The Crown Vic, I have no intentions on fixing it at this point in time. I just spent $2,000 fixing the Explorer. We're down an officer, so we have enough cars right now, so the Explorer is kind of an extra car right now. So with that being there, I'm hoping to stretch it out. Next year, we are gonna budget for the last vehicle to replace, the old Ford that we have. So hopefully, what my idea, or what I'm trying to do is, if we don't have to fix that Crown Vic this year, maybe we can sell it next year and just get our car and not have to worry about it, because that's gonna be another couple $1,000s.
Okay.
So we're hoping that that doesn't work. It runs, it drives now if we need it. It's just, you know, we're getting a lot of oil into that valve, so.
No high-speed pursuits in
Yeah,
that.
there better not be any pursuits, exactly. The SRO vehicle, that was the $2,000 that I just spent. They had to completely do the rack and pinion on that one.
What year
so
is that?
It's a 11,
11.
and we bought it from the sheriff's department for $3,000. So we've had it for 5 years, and that's pretty much
That's good.
the main thing that we've had to do to it. So I mean,
Yeah.
you know, for a few
That
years.
was good.
It's a pretty good investment.
Yeah, exactly.
Really good.
And we'll probably keep it as an extra just because it's a good all-wheel drive vehicle that we have. The cameras, I'm gonna start back doing those, but we were down the cars, and then we had the other we had Andrew, so we didn't have any extra cars. So the cage is getting put in Andrew's old car today and yesterday. I took it up there finally to get the cage put in. Once that cage is put in, then we're gonna start rotating vehicles. The last two that I have should be fairly easy putting them in, because I have the boxes set in an easier spot. So it should be fairly simple. Like I said, next year, for next year's budget, the vehicle is gonna be substantially more than what we normally do, because I'm not gonna wire them. I'm gonna order one and have them wire it, and then that way I don't have to wire them anymore, if that's the way that the board wants to go. I mean, I have no problems doing it, just takes forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for the installation of the cameras, though, Public Works has requested that he wait until after the 4th of
4th.
July, because they're doing some maintenance on vehicles in there right now, so he doesn't have shop space.
Okay.
So we'll
Yeah.
rotate them out and get those other two in. But the other two, we're running two right now with them. It's been night and day from court. You know, you've got the people that actually not stop at stop signs. So we're doing a lot of stop sign violations and a lot of left-hand turns right now. And they'll come in and they'll be like, well, I want to see the footage. You know, I know you have footage. So we show them that they didn't even attempt to stop or slow down at the stop signs. And then generally 90% of them, I'm sorry, come right up front, pay their ticket, and then, you know, we don't have to go to court with them or anything. So it's fantastic.
Good.
It's saved a lot of court hearings and everything.
Good.
So one of the things that's not on here is hiring. So we are looking for an officer. I have had my ad out for a month and a half and have not gotten one applicant. So I was talking to the mayor, and more than likely what we are gonna end up doing is hiring and putting somebody through the academy. We'll pay a wage while they're going through the academy, not a police wage. It'll be, you know, probably $17, $18 an hour while they're going through the academy. We'll pay a portion of their academy fees. I think it's $10,000 for the academy. I think we'll pay $3,000 to $5,000. I have to get with Cindy on that and figure out what we can. At that point, we will set up a contract with them and have them do a contract for 3 years that they will be with us us for 3 years.
Okay.
So we'll at least have some guarantee that we're gonna have somebody for 3 years.
Okay. And there would be some kind of financial recovery if they don't complete the contract?
Correct, yeah,
Okay.
they would have to pay back pretty much everything that we've invested in them and everything with the wage and everything else.
Okay.
They did something similar in Hotchkiss with their new officer that they have. And so Bo is their attorney, so he already has the contract and everything. So
Great.
we'll just be taking their contract and doing it that way. I do have one for sure interested. And then I'm supposed to be meeting with potentially 2 others tomorrow. So hopefully that works out, and out of those 3, we'll be able to do it. Bad thing is, I have to have somebody hired in a week.
Because
Because
of the
of the
academy
academy.
dates?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
So basically what it's gonna come down to is running their background, making sure that they don't have anything, quick introduction, and then the academy actually goes into in depth with their backgrounds and does all that for, you know, everything else to make sure everything is good. But their deadline, I take that back, I have 2 weeks. Their deadline is July 1st. So that's whenever they have to start going in, and that's whenever they start doing their testing, their physical agility, and
Yeah.
all of that other stuff. So
Okay.
we did change our ad that we had, because we were gonna advertise until the middle of July. Now it's the beginnings, because, you know, I mean, we can do a hire pretty quick and get somebody in that position to where they can go ahead and do it. They don't have to quit working at their other job until August when the academy starts, but we just have to get that stuff done before July.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the downfall with that. But like I said, I have 3. One of them's just got out of the Navy. So, and then another one lives up on Mine Rich Road. So, I mean, these are local people that already have a place to live.
That's great.
So, you know, that's huge, because that's one of
Right.
the issues that we're facing right now.
Right.
Is nobody does it, or nobody wants to move here. I had a guy call me today, and he is enrolled in the academy and wanted to know what the process was. I told him that you had to live within a 5-mile radius. There are certain exceptions can be made, but no further than Hotchkiss. And he says, well, I live in Peach Valley, I'm not interested, thank you very much. You know, so
Okay.
it's just certain things like that. And if we can find somebody local, I think that's gonna be helping out tremendously.
Yep.
So the money on that, the basically 13 grand, is that already in your budget that we can handle that, or how does that work?
So we wouldn't actually pay their full tuition. We're only gonna pay a portion. I think Hotchkiss, and I can't remember what they did, I think it was $3,000 that they pay towards their tuition.
Yeah.
With the lack of officer that we have now, and we're not paying that out, we will be okay to go ahead and do that.
Good.
It should be pretty close to a wash whenever it comes down to it. So
Good.
that's why we're able to put them through the academy and pay for them while they go through it. It's still gonna be less than what we would be paying an officer out on the road.
Right. Sure.
I think we started, Brian, I think he makes 21 an hour now or something. So if we start him out at 17 or 18, we're still gaining that excess that we had there, so that way should wash out in the
helps.
end. Yeah, so it's a good situation. And my biggest thing is the contract, honestly. You know, with Brian, I've got Brian on a contract for 2 years because we helped him move up here. And then, so I've got him. If for some reason they take another job somewhere else, their other department has the opportunity to pay off what it is.
They have to buy out the
Yeah, to
contract.
buy out the contract, basically.
Sounds like professional sports.
Exactly, yeah, you're just trading them, but you have to buy out your contract. But that doesn't happen too often. Gunnison actually had to do this with an officer that they just got. He lives over on Doris Avenue, and Gunnison Sheriff's Department had to put them through the academy because they couldn't get anybody else either.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be a cop anymore. You know, and the ones that they do, they want the $75,000, $80,000 to go and do it. They don't want to work for, you know, $40,000 or $50,000 that we're able to pay. But so we're hoping that we have a couple of good potentials. Both of them I know two of them I know really well. You know, one of them was a high school kid that I've known forever. Always a good kid. He's the one that lives up on Mine Ridge, and I know the other kid that just graduated from the Navy. You know, so hopefully those two will be somewhat good, and
Okay.
we'll be able to go from there.
Great.
There wouldn't be, with the person just getting out of the Navy, there wouldn't be any government funds that he could use to go through the academy and stuff?
I think he can do,
I mean,
what is that called? Their,
like GI Bill or
yes.
something.
Yeah, I think he could do a GI Bill.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a possibility. Like I said, he reached out to me yesterday. I've been posting, before I posted certified and non-certified, Friday I found out my time frame, and that's whenever I really started going, okay.
So I'm going to jump in just for a second on that. Just a reminder, this is going to be on YouTube, so I don't want us to get too far into the personnel specifics.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what, you know, it gave me my time frame, and so I was like, okay, we definitely need to figure that out. So we changed
Right.
the ad a little bit, and then figured out how quickly we have to get somebody hired if we're gonna send them to the academy. If we're not gonna send somebody to the academy this time, we're not gonna have another officer potentially until April of next year.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's kind of a time crunch on this one. Animal control, they have stopped talking to us. So after, I know that Lauren met with you guys last time, after he had emailed them the last time, they said they had a couple more questions. We emailed them back a couple more questions, or their answers, and it's been radio silent since.
Okay.
So the only other option that we have right now is to get a hold of the one in Delta, and see if they're willing to do it. On the other hand, we're hopeful to have the change in the language that we had spoken about on the next, or within
First
the
meeting in
next.
July.
Yeah, the first meeting in July.
Okay.
So we can get that remedied, and that way we're, you know, abiding by what we need to do.
Good.
And
Great.
I don't see an issue with it. It's only one word. You
Right.
know, it's shall to may.
Mhm.
And I don't see that there should be any kind of an issue from the board on that portion of it. You know, we're just changing that one word,
Or from the public.
or from the
Right.
public, absolutely.
Reflecting what we're actually capable of doing at this time.
Yeah,
That
and
makes sense
like I
to
said,
me.
it's literally one word that we're changing, you
Right.
know, just making it to where we're in compliance. The dog tag booth, I think it's a great idea. I'm still willing to do it. We just need to see about getting approval from the board level, I guess.
No, it's free.
Okay.
I already have the application downloaded, and
okay.
I've already talked to the committee.
Okay,
Yeah, so we were talking about that. These are the sample. I had them send a sample.
Oh, great.
This is what that is, that has the little rolls in it. They're less than $1 a piece.
Yeah.
Where their logo is where the town logo would go, or the Paonia Police Department, or we would do some kind of a logo on it, and then be able to give them out with just
Great.
little rolled up bags of,
Yeah. And they could pull right out here, yeah.
yeah.
I would
That's really
personally,
cool.
if we're gonna do the booth at the town hall, I
This
would-
is where we had to talk,
or
yeah.
at the Cherry Days, I would like to see about giving them their town tags.
We would like to offer a free registration that day. So if
Yeah.
you come and take the time during that event,
During Cherry Days.
during the Cherry Days to come and register, that it would be at no cost.
And I think that that could potentially get us a lot of people in there, and that's where we're gonna need your guys' approval to, you know, go ahead and go forward with that.
Yeah.
But the amount that we budgeted versus the amount that we have is minuscule. I don't see an issue with giving these tags away for free.
Okay.
And then that way, we're gonna have more of a good, list of people that do it. We'll have an officer there, you know, registering them as they come.
Okay.
And we'll just do it that way is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That will work out and be out in the public as well.
Yeah, I think that's real important to be out in the public to, you know, to meet the people. I've heard some comments that, well, we really don't know the officers, you know, and I see Hotchkiss is having, a coffee with the
Coffee with a
cop
cop.
or something.
We were there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We go
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, we were in that, I had 2 officers down there. So, yeah, we did participate in that one as well.
Yeah.
And so it was good. Sergeant Winnett and Officer Berger were down in Hotchkiss whenever they did that. And so
Good.
any kind of opportunity that we get, we're trying to do. I know there was some talk about road closures.
that's on Play Streets.
And we were asked if we could be involved in that, so that way we can go over there and hand out some stickers to the kids.
Right.
You know, and just
That'd be good.
be out there a little bit more. That's where I've always wanted to take it. That's where I still want to take it. I want to be out there. We just got our electric car going. We started driving it around yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And we plan on utilizing it a lot more. It's great. We could stop and talk to people. People don't feel that more, you know, pressure that, oh, a police car and everything. So they're more willing to talk to us, and that's what we're trying to do, is get out there a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the cherry days, I love the idea of doing free registrations, getting as many people on board as we can. I feel like that'll probably save your officers a lot of time
Yeah.
down the road, hopefully. And if you need help with that booth,
Yeah.
Okay.
let us know.
And I think there was you have a good comment here too, that some of the rabies vaccines are good for 1 year and some for 3 years.
Yep.
So how long will those tags be good for? We were trying to get long-term or
Right.
not, but
So and I've thought about this too. So yeah, the difference between the 1 and the 3 years is based on the age of the dog, because you know when they're pups they have to get them more often, and then I believe it's the 2 year, after they're 2 years old, then they go to every 3-year booster.
okay.
So
They
Okay.
can, but they don't have to. So some
Okay.
dogs will still get annual instead,
okay.
depending on their timing of when they're getting it or what kind of history they can present to the vet. If the vet isn't sure, then they'll give them a 1-year booster instead of a 3-year booster.
That's interesting.
So-
So I was thinking about that and moving for at least this event, maybe and especially since it is free, maybe it stays at that calendar year, and that is definitely a conversation I think that we would need to have at a higher level, because I think it goes back to, it's important that the dogs are being vaccinated and are being taken care of, but it's also how deep dive does the police department or the town government get involved in saying, you know, your dogs are vaccinated. So it could very well be that part of that vaccination process, tagging process when you bring in the vaccination, is, you know, making a statement and agreeing that you're going to keep your dog up to date with their
Yeah.
vaccinations, and then that really is on them. And if there was an incident and they didn't, then that would be part of the, you know, the legal part of it.
Yeah.
And so I think that might be a way to address it.
So, yeah, I'm good with just making it 1-year tag at the
Yeah,
Cherry
for this
Days.
right now.
Yep, and then I agree. I think probably a board decision on if we want to change our code to reflect a different policy going forward.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that something, I mean, kind of parking lot, because it's not urgent if we're keeping it for a year, but
Right.
hopefully before we get to the very end of the year, that could come back before the board.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm hopeful we can get some through, at least get some ground through some of these really big things we're looking at right now, and then start fitting some of these other things that are important but not urgent back into our agendas.
Okay. So I'll just make a note that we'll do it before the end of the year, and we can follow up
Yep.
months from now.
Perfect.
And regarding the Cherry Days, are Are you expecting a board decision related to that, or is that something staff's just gonna run with?
I thought we would just apply. There's no cost associated with it for a nonprofit governmental entity. So, taking up a little bit of that space, and I don't foresee any issues with that, with Cherry Days at all. So,
Okay.
I think just reporting out, maybe under the PD report, that,
Right.
that you'll have a booth there doing registrations. I will have to do it, I'll do an agenda item. I have my agenda meeting actually at 3 o'clock. We're usually really quick on these meetings, so I do apologize. I will let them know if I'm going to be a few minutes late. But we'll add that on there because we will need the board to agree to allow the Cherry Days booth to offer free tags, since that is a set fee in our resolution.
Sure.
And
Yep.
then, I mean, I know that the ambulance barn usually does water and stuff there too, but if we possible, maybe
Yeah.
we can be on the other side or something, and maybe we can spend a little bit of extra money and be able to buy some water or something and hand out some water as they're coming through too. So, I mean, just
Yeah,
something to be out there a little bit
yeah,
more.
yep,
We do have funds budgeted for community events this year, so, what
More
we
than
could
just Halloween.
Yeah, more than just Halloween. So we can go ahead and use some of those funds as well to be able to, have something.
yeah, I think that'd be great, because, just doesn't take much, just little things just
Right.
make a lot of difference.
Yes, I agree.
And just an idea for that, what about like a little dog watering station?
Yeah,
That'd be
I-
cute.
I think
Excellent.
there'll be a lot of people doing like free bottled water for
yeah,
human consumption, but
Yeah,
that would also save
Perfect.
you from buying bottled and maybe just use town tap and refill of
Right.
perfect.
something.
Yeah,
And make it
absolutely.
dog-centric.
Yeah,
right,
yeah, we'll just have it all surrounding dogs.
Yeah.
We'll have a canine come.
Talk to your people.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll, but
Maybe
yeah.
the sheriff's canine,
Could bring the
look, our
canine.
dog's licensed too, and, I don't
So,
know, we can
but,
see.
yeah.
I'm open to anything. If you guys have ideas or anything like that to make it more of a event that's gonna pop, then, let me
I-
know, and
I
we'll
think-
do whatever.
Your booth
Getting
is
a
small. It's a
canine.
10 by 10, so don't
Right.
go crazy.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think getting a canine there is really a good idea, though. You get the kids, even us old guys over,
They're pretty neat.
Yeah, they are.
to pet them if you're allowed to pet them.
Yeah, and so
Right.
I'll ask Sergeant Sanders if he can come over for a couple hours or something that day and everything.
That's great.
The criminal mischief incidents, most of those were, or the ones that I think you're referring to were related. We actually know who did it, but nobody is willing to press charges. So once again, we go and we put all this effort into getting somebody, and nobody wants to pursue charges. So basically,
Are these the tagging?
yeah. And so basically, they just want them to clean up wanted them to take care of the mess and clean it up.
Okay.
I believe that's already been taken care of.
Okay.
But that's what they wanted, so without having a we don't have any charging or anything else that way.
Okay.
There
it's good that
was
they cleaned
one additional tagging down at the river park on one of the tables under the shade structure.
The River
Saturday.
Park is the sheriff's department.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, we do not
All
have
right.
anything to do with the River Park,
It's,
unfortunately.
it's tricky, and we're looking into that, because the area you're talking about is town property,
Yep.
but
Right.
it's in the county. And
Okay.
so the police department doesn't have any jurisdiction over it.
Okay.
But there is, I have been looking into statute about how you can annex an enclave when it's a municipally owned piece of land. The thing is, again, is that then you have an enclave. It's like, well, if they did it under the structure, it's on town property, but if they did it 5 feet further away, then you're in the county, and it just gets a little mucky.
yeah, yeah,
We've wanted to, or I've wanted to be able to take that over since I took over as chief. I wanted to always be able to go and patrol that area. But you have to be contingent with some sort of town, and we're not out there.
Okay.
And
But we
so-
continue to look at that,
Right,
right, right.
so. Okay.
that's about
Okay.
all that I have.
So I did have a follow-up from the last meeting, and I I don't know if this actually falls under public safety or if it's more public works, but we had a couple of safety issues related to gutters, a storm sewer, and then the excessive debris. Just wanted to make sure that that didn't drop off the radar.
Yeah, that would be Public Works.
Okay.
And I can say that the gutters on 3rd Street, they have been taken care of.
Yeah.
And in checking the gutters at the corners, I don't know if everything is just dried up when the wind is blowing it away, or if the town has taken care of it, because I did see someone on Main
Mm-hmm.
cleaning the gutters out
Right.
by hand and
Yeah,
everything.
we have to. Mm-hmm.
So,
I
guess
reminded
I'm good
them.
with it being cleaned
Okay.
out.
Yeah.
So that one I'll just pull off the agenda then if we're.
Right.
And I
right.
did remind them of that. I did remind them again that I understand, and, that everyone understands that we don't have the capacity to hand clean every gutter throughout town, but let's just make sure we're consistently, every couple of weeks, at least every other week, checking those accesses so that they are accessible, and we're looking at that. We did get the grates, they did remove the grates from
Yes.
that ditch area, those were,
Right.
phew, you weren't kidding. I went by and took pictures.
They
and
were nasty.
They were really bent, and so
They were
really
real,
dangerous.
yeah, real
Mhm.
bent. And, again, just the sidewalks, they're just so bad anyways. I mean, even cleaning the gutters, there's not a continuous sidewalk that really, handicapped people could
Right.
really access.
Right.
So that's something that I think we really need to work on,
Mhm.
and I know we're trying to.
We
The
may
funds are
need to
just not
start
available.
subsidizing the sidewalk fee, because the sidewalk fee just doesn't, the cost to do the work is just so, it way outweighs the budget that we
Right.
get if that's the only money that goes toward the sidewalk repair portion. Although the way it was written in with the revenues from, any marijuana shops, that also streets, that definition in the ordinance does include sidewalk, gutter, those kind of things as well, so, yeah.
And I don't know if it was true here, but other places I've lived, the resident property owner could pay for half of the sidewalk costs.
So we do have that. And it's actually one of the things that's also on that list that's not urgent, but that I want to bring back to the board, because it's been in place for it's nearing 25 years, and the board has never modified the amount of money we match. So the way that the town's sidewalk grant works is, if a homeowner decides to do any of the repair for the sidewalk that adjoins their property, they can do so. They fill out a one-page paper and provide the receipts, and the
Yeah.
town will reimburse 50% up to $500. And it's just not enough. It's not enough with the cost. So and like I said, 50% up to $500 25 years ago was substantial in
Right.
sidewalk repair. It's not
Right.
anymore.
No,
That's
that
a
needs to be,
That's a concrete
Right, and
slab
so
of that one.
for me, honestly, it's more of having a certain pool, and on a first-come, first-served basis, maybe we'll reimburse up to 50% of your materials, period. Or we'll match you dollar for dollar, or some way, and not,
yeah.
the board has consistently tried to move away from tying a specific dollar amount when they can, because of increases, inflation,
Yeah.
different things.
And I
So-
think with the marijuana ordinance, that will help a lot with that.
Right,
So
Right.
I would expect there might be committee direction related to working on that.
yes.
I think we'll probably need some clarification from the board on whether that makes more sense to be in Public Works, because it's Public Works activity,
Right.
or Public Safety, because it's a safety issue, and updating the code will be a government affairs.
Right.
So,
They all overlap, I know.
yeah, so maybe we
Yeah.
can get a little better direction on which committee should tackle that one.
Great.
You guys need me anymore? Or do you have any other questions? Anything else that I could offer?
There was one other thing, and I don't know really well, I guess I'd like your input on it as well. There's been contacted by a citizen. There was a young person who said they were kicked out of their home and they had a backpack and sleeping bag, and they were sick to their stomach and everything, and so the person said that this person said they were on medication, and just wondering, that person was wondering what to tell that person to do. How can the town help that person? Do we have any avenue, any way of helping them? Or is that more of a county thing that we would have to send them to? I mean, I'm kind of stumbling around here, but
One of the things that we wanted to instill is some way to be able to help somebody that really needs help. You know, because you get the ones that, oh, well, I need help, but they're not really the ones that need help.
It's a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Yeah.
yes.
We do have, right now, I think we have a couple $100 that we budget every year for like a night at a hotel or something. I would like to expand that to be able to help those people that do need it. Because for other services, there's nothing.
Yeah.
The county has nothing. Mental health, unless you're a harm to yourself or others, they have nothing. Basically, and we have a couple here, you go and find a spot underneath the bridge and you go sleep underneath the bridge.
Which I
You
understand,
know.
yeah, we do have some
Yep,
that
we
do
have
that,
a couple of
yes.
them that do that. A couple of them, or one of them that, and it's mostly a mental health issue.
right.
But they're not a harm to themselves or others. So mental health has no avenue to do anything, and we have no avenue to order that either.
Yeah.
If somebody was kicked out of their house, they can't, in the state of Colorado, you have to be legally evicted to be able to, or to make somebody leave. That means you have to go through the court process. You can't, a landlord can't just go up to somebody and say, you've got 3 days to get out of your house. So, you know,
Yeah,
there's that.
Or a
as well.
roommate, or-
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You assume everything whenever you take somebody in.
Right, and I think it sounded like it may have been a teenager that was, the mother kicked the son out of the home, and it's probably underage.
See, and
You
then
know.
that could be criminal, you know, I mean, that could be child abuse. If a parent is, they're legally obligated to take care of that child until they're 18 years old, until they're an adult. So if they're kicking a child that's under 18 out of the house, that
That's,
could be construed as child
Okay.
abuse. You know, and I mean, you can't, unfortunately, you can't shirk your responsibilities as a parent, you know, no matter.
How difficult your child, you might seem to think your child is.
Exactly, I know there's
Yes.
times whenever,
We have teenagers.
yes. But
Right.
no,
Okay.
and if that's the thing,
So-
they can definitely get a hold of me, and, I mean, we can talk about options without
right,
names, or, you know,
yeah,
and just see if we could figure something out.
right.
And it is really tricky with juveniles too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because, I mean, there's even things that even, I know from the past firsthand, that things like, especially with the juvenile, that if an officer then takes that child or juvenile to a hotel or to another location, and an injury or something was to happen, then what kind of liability are they assuming because this was a juvenile? This actually came
on
up
the
at a
town.
time when, you know, you have underage kids out, and do you transport them home when you find them out after curfew? Well, what kind of liability have you assumed by transporting them home if then you have not contacted an adult and the adult isn't aware? You know, there's all these different things I know that they have.
Sure.
So it gets really
Yeah.
difficult trying to
Yeah.
figure out
But
how to
yeah,
help them.
anytime at all, if they, I mean, if they wanna talk or figure something out, or, you know,
Right.
give a little bit more depth into the story or something like that, then yeah, just have them come on in or give me a call. I can go wherever they need
Okay.
me to, and it could be confidential.
All right.
Yeah, I know, and that's always the bad part. It always seems like the kids are the ones that are getting the raw end of the deal there, so those are the ones that I'm more apt to help.
So I don't know if it would have helped in this situation, but going forward, what do you think about maybe getting a list of resources somewhere on the website that we could refer people to? Anything from calling an officer to here's where you learn about tenant rights in Colorado.
We
If you're-
have,
Yeah, we could definitely do something
yeah,
like that.
we can, and we're actually doing another
idea.
thing for, something similar for battered women and, you know, things like that, just being able to put out some resources for places other than police, or, you know, because most of your battered women don't wanna report it.
Right, right.
Or even battered men, you know.
Sure.
They don't want that stigma, they don't wanna report it. So we're gonna put something out, okay, you can contact these few
Other
places,
resources.
and that way you have something that can be done.
Could those possibly be a handout for Cherry Days?
We could try and get something to put together by
mean,
then,
just-
absolutely.
Just a thought.
Yeah, we can definitely try and get something together.
Do a little side information booth
Right.
on the
Yeah.
table or something.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, I can definitely write some things
Tag
out.
Joanne on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you need any assistance from the committee on tracking down resources or anything like that, let us know how we can assist.
Okay, excellent, thank you so much.
That's all I have.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much, appreciate it, glad to see you guys. And if there's
Yeah.
anything else that we can do to help out, let me know.
We
Thanks.
will. Thank you.
It might be the broken one. It was unintentional.
Have a good day.
You
You
too.
too. Okay, so that gets us through public safety. Do you want to just jump on down to the food truck ordinance?
Yes, yeah.
And I am sorry, I think I sent it to you last week, Mick, but then I didn't think to put together an agenda until this morning, so it was a little last minute.
Oh,
Um,
no, that's fine. I've been out and about anyway, so
Okay,
I've seen it, so,
okay.
yeah.
And it was a pretty easy read. It's not
Yes.
too long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So to me, it looks very similar to what we had put together and sent to Bo. He just copied the language into proper ordinance format. There is still that section for board's consideration, and we talked very briefly about the board with that, but there was nothing formal. So I'm glad to see that in here so that we can make a formal decision on
yeah,
that.
yeah, I was glad to
Um,
see that in here.
Yep.
I think
So-
it's a great idea.
I did too. As far as timeline, I can definitely put it in the queue and just make Mary aware of it, so when she's setting agendas, I'm hopeful that by maybe not the first meeting in July, but the second meeting of July, some of these other things we have some things that are wrapping up, so, you know, like the DME franchise agreement and different things like that are starting to wrap up, and I think will open up some space for some of these other items to start filling in there. So
Okay.
I would think by the second meeting in July, it could be on the agenda. At least I would hope.
Okay. So I don't have any requested changes from the committee level on this, unless Mick, if you have anything.
No,
Okay.
no, like I said, I think it's fine, and I like the highlighted spot there. I think that's really good.
Okay, so now this is moved to board business when it can get on the agenda and it's off of committee business, I would say.
Yeah.
Good.
Isn't it nice?
Check it out.
Oh, that's always one of the best feelings. I love checking things off lists.
Okay, so then the ADU ordinance, that one's tabled. I left it on the agenda just so that
Right.
we'll have to
Don't
revisit
forget.
it eventually, I think, but not for right now. And then the STR survey review, just wanted to see where that sits in the queue to get back before the board, because we put it out for the board to review, and then it's going to be a while before they see it again, so I feel like it's
Right.
going to drop off of everybody's mind.
Right. Same, we can definitely try to get that back in there in July, and so then maybe reporting that out at committee, reminding people to go back and review. We can we'll aim for that as well.
So second meeting in July is the expectation?
I would hope so, yes.
Okay. So we'll just let the board know to review it before that time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then we have some assignments from the board that happened since the last time we met. So I don't have any documents related to these yet, but we can just get the conversation started. The first one is talking about consistency and how we deal with park fees. So this is going to be a split conversation with Public Works taking some of it and with us taking what we've been tasked with is consistency with other town policies, mainly. And how we address park fees. And like I said in our last board meeting, I think we're kind of in a tricky spot right now because we waived and we don't have anything right now that says when we'll waive and when we won't. And I do think we need some consistency there.
And I would agree. I mean, and as far as there is no other, I can't think of one other incident or one other situation where fees are waived. So, I think this is a good, when you're talking about consistency and having a policy. It is very interesting, the way that things are dealt with and then they settle out and then they come up again. Because I know that when I first came onto the board in 2010, this was a conversation, and the board prior to when I was on the board had been pretty habitually waiving fees. And then there was a discussion at the board level that said, hey, no, we can't keep doing this. And that's where the meeting that Bob Bushta was referring to, where several of the planners for these events like Cherry Days, BMW Rally, Pickin' in the Park, Harvest Festival came together, met with the board, with the committee members at the time, and ironed out what they all agreed was fair cost for reserving, and then the board stopped waiving fees and said, these are the fees, everyone agreed, we're not waiving fees anymore. And so they had stopped doing that, and now the requests are coming back again to waive. So this is definitely, I think, documenting what a policy would be is a good idea.
Okay.
So we
Absolutely.
don't, because we are revisiting.
Yeah, I think we're probably pretty much stuck for this year on all festivals that are going on. So, but I would think next year we require and expect to be paid for any requests.
Right. The fees, and we're going to do a better, an actual tracked, not just from firsthand knowledge, but an actual tracking mechanism to see what additional resources as far as, I've directed Public Works to do pretty detailed logs, not just generalized. Right now, for time card and payroll, they generalize, I went to the park, I was in the park for 3 hours, but they don't, and so I'm asking them to log very specifically what time and what they're doing, so we can really look at that.
That's a good
I know
idea.
firsthand, we don't even begin to touch what the festivals cost in those fees, and I think that that's important to see also when we're looking at the conversation.
Yeah, and I don't know if we necessarily have to cover all that cost.
Agreed.
But I think the public needs to know just how much it is costing.
Right.
And that how much we are paying towards that. So
And I agree. I think it's important that the community and the event planners
exactly.
know how much is being subsidized, and it
Right.
also gives the board a leg to stand on, so you don't feel like you're just being anti-event when you say, no, we're not going to waive that fee really is just, it's a nominal fee, but it gets you on the calendar, it gets you these other things that, they get specific support for a large park event that anyone else does not get that does a park request. Under 100 people, if you're doing a reservation for a birthday party, things like that, you don't get anything from the town, but you're not paying anything. It's free. You're just letting us know so we can make sure we don't turn the sprinklers on you, things like that. So, so I think seeing that you're getting this benefit also, and that fee is just just barely supporting, or just is really nominal in comparison to there's cost benefit for the event to the town, and there's cost benefit for the planner as well, so.
And maybe this is something for maybe a future discussion of this. But when they come in and say, well, we'll put the town's name as, a partial host or whatever.
Right.
Maybe we should assume that the town is already a host
Right.
to that. So, anyway.
Okay. One other thought I had on this, and this is just because when we were talking about Cherry Days in the last meeting, Mr. Bushta mentioned that they leave the park cleaner than they found it. So I wonder if we could, once we have a better sense, collect some data, have some information about what it's actually costing the town during an event, maybe have some provision for a security deposit so that those events that do leave everything spotless, clean up after themselves, don't require as much additional maintenance, could get, not all of it because there's still town effort involved, but some of it returned back to them for doing their cleanup and not putting extra cost on the town.
I think it's a good idea. Right now,
Yeah.
they get that $50 for telling us they're going to offer recycling.
Right.
And, so maybe looking at another way that we can.
Yeah, which recycling will probably not happen anymore.
Well, I'm looking into that too. But that's
Town recycling?
well, so it is governmental affairs related. It's just so the bins that are offered in Hotchkiss and the other locations are only for paper. So
Right.
when you start diving in a little bit more on what
Right.
this revamping of the recycling is, I realized, okay, this is really a lot. There's a lot of deficiencies, especially for a community that I don't have statistics, but I would bet pretty confidently that we're probably one of the highest recycling communities in the county.
Yes.
I really think that I would like to be able to offer something. This is difficult for me. I'm not going to pretend it isn't, because our resources are stretched so thin as far as
Absolutely.
bodies on the ground. But it's part of the reason you've seen some of the little questions I've been putting out there on the town's Facebook, asking people, what trash service do you use? How many of you recycle? If you did, are you going to keep recycling? Tell me what the plan is because one of the things I am looking at is getting some more data and bringing to the board and reaching out to the county to see if the county would be willing to assist in the cost to put recycling bins potentially on a piece of town property. I'm looking at the location of our electric car charger. It seemed to tie in well, and it's a location that's easy to get in and out of, and is not developed and is underutilized right now. So I was thinking about looking to the county to help offset the cost of that project, because in the big picture, having the town participate in some way in recycling is also a benefit to the county, because it's going to keep the people who are not going to recycle trash out of the landfill, because in big picture, we're looking at higher costs for landfill because we're going to have more trash. People are going to throw away more. And in turn, the county is going to have a larger amount going into the landfill. And I've had people as far as Crawford reach out since I started asking the question, saying, I live in Crawford, I will recycle if Paonia offers recycling, and I don't recycle. So, but they're not able to make it 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, to Eckerd.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so that is something I'm looking into. My initial thought is kind of a pilot program, a couple of months,
Yeah.
doing it, seeing if we can do something with a temporary setup, and assigning someone from Public Works on an off day when we're not running trash, because we run trash Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that maybe every other week they would empty those bins, take them to recycling, and just, so really rough right now, just kind of thinking it through.
Yeah.
If you have any suggestions, that would be fantastic. Potential to expound upon that when we're looking at trash fees and other things. Happy to do it, but just really trying to, really spitballing right now, but trying to think of how we could potentially do this, so.
Is
That
it
would be
possible
great.
to hitch a trailer to the trash truck?
And it may be. I don't know, but that is a good question. I mean, could we haul on the trash truck and because it's on the way when we're going
That's
to the
what
landfill?
I'm thinking. Save like an extra drive of the truck down to Austin and back, which is an added expense, added time, a lot of time for somebody.
And so that's a good suggestion. I hadn't thought of that. But I will look at that and see if that is something. Is that
I
a
don't know if
capability?
that would even be legal, but
I don't either,
just
but
so-
it doesn't mean we
yeah.
can't look. I mean,
Yeah.
the only way we'll know is if we ask. But that's a good idea. But I'm trying to think, it's not gonna happen immediately. It's not gonna happen, in the next month or two. I really wanna have all my
Right.
ducks in a row before I formally go to the board, to the commissioners, because I am going to go to the county and ask them to assist.
Yeah, that's great, because a lot of people have been asking,
I know.
can we do something,
Right.
So I'm glad you're taking that on.
Yeah, and like I said, it's really rough right now. I'm trying to think through
Yeah.
how we would do it, what it would
Yeah.
look like. I know there's specific types of bins you use for recycling. It's not like just throwing a dumpster out there. And just really then needing that community buy-in, that they realize the necessity for them to adhere to what it says and only put the things into the recycling. What's that going to look at, what that's going to look like for the town. So,
So I'm gonna,
yeah.
this is really good information, but I think it's also a little bit outside the purview of GAP's committee. So I'm gonna
Right.
reel us
Yeah.
back in.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Corinne, I know we're
Yeah.
pretty much at 3:00, so you
I
probably.
let them know I'll be a few minutes late, but,
Okay.
so, apologies for that. We're usually through, and today I have meetings every hour on the hour since 12 o'clock.
Okay.
So,
So the next one is the town policy on advisory committees and whether non-town residents should be able to serve on advisory committees to tap into greater expertise. And GAPS was assigned that by the board to consider the idea. Personally, I feel like there's some committees where that would do great service. We've already allowed that on the water advisory committee. And the other one that it was mentioned for was the Board of Appeals. I can't decide if it's Board of Appeals or Board of Adjustment. Which one?
Board
are
of
we-
Appeals.
Board of Appeals, okay. So for the Board of Appeals to be able to get potentially some greater expertise on our building codes if we go outside of town for that, that does make sense to me. So I don't know if that's something that we should specify for each board, or if we could just adopt into our code generally that out-of-town applicants are welcome and will be considered as needed. And then it would sort of be at board discretion if that expertise outweighs the benefit of having someone who's a resident.
And I would agree. I could tell you what I've thought about when thinking about this is that as right now, all of our boards and commissions are structured as an advisory board. So the decision-making is still happening at the elected official level. So I would think having an advisory board capacity, allowing out-of-town Paonia residents, maybe you still keep it within Paonia, maybe it stays within the 81428 zip code. Maybe not. That, of course, would be a board decision. But I would think that if there, at such time that any boards potentially that were created that would have any decision-making, if the board ever did provide that to another committee, maybe in that situation, those members would be ex officio, so they could provide their expertise, give their opinion and input, but wouldn't be a voting member of the board. So those were just some of the thoughts that I had had on that
Yeah.
subject before.
Oh, I think those are good thoughts. Yeah, advisory committees, I see
Right,
no reason to limit.
right. Right, why
and
wouldn't we
I
want their
think
advice?
Probably to the zip code
Yeah.
anyways, yes. Yeah,
Okay. Okay, so then just summarizing where we're at, it sounds like as a committee, our recommendation would be not to limit advisory boards to in-town residents, but consider whether we should limit by zip code to keep them relatively local. And then if the board ever has committees where they're giving direct decision-making authority to that committee, the out-of-town members would serve ex officio without actual voting abilities, but we could still tap into their expertise as discussion members.
Sounds good.
So I'll just write that up so we can include that, just a little blurb in the committee report that we present at the next meeting, if that works.
Okay.
Okay. And the last thing was developing a draft policy for residential street closure requests. And I know, Corinne, you started on that. It may be that I wasn't clear about the board direction on that. I'm not sure. I had in my notes that GAPS was tasked with it, but
And you may have been, and I just didn't record that part and just went with it, so apologies.
Yes, thank you.
And so that's why I sent out what I had
And
drafted.
it looks great.
I relied heavily on, actually Seattle has a really good play streets, and a lot of this came directly from them.
great. Okay.
So I do have it slated on the agenda if it gets approved to come back for the board, so that, especially those highlighted things, because those were things that I knew hadn't been discussed at the board level, from my understanding. I knew there was some discussion on limiting how often. There hadn't been any discussion on what the fee would be. Grand Avenue street closures is $25 an hour. So I didn't think that in this kind of a situation you necessarily would want that. But so those were the things that I was kind of thinking we would need board direction on.
Okay. Yeah, you've already done the work. I see no need to duplicate the work. So I think bringing this back to the board from the administrator is fine. And
Okay.
if we have any
Yeah.
input as a committee, or if they want us to review anything specific, we can do that. But I don't see a need for us to redo what's been done here.
Yep.
I think this is a good place for the board, for sure, to start the conversation on how we can move forward with these.
Yep,
Okay.
I agree. And the liability for this falls on the town.
It would be covered under our general liability policy as the
Right.
host, which is
Yep.
part of the additional checking in on the police department
Yeah.
side as well. Along with it, and I didn't email them to you when I responded this morning, was I actually have some signage, some specific signage and things also that Seattle had used that I took and modified, that actually say street closed, and or that this is a town-sponsored Play Streets event, and here's the contact that can go up on the barricades and could be posted also on site, so that anyone who had any questions about the event or was looking for specific information would be able to see it clearly posted.
So I'm also going to send you a link because I found this thing like pre-COVID and sent it to Mary, and then it just kind of dropped off, but because of COVID. But I think it's Grand Junction. I'll have to double check. What they do is similar to this, but they have a block party trailer where it includes the barricades inside the trailer, all the signage they're going to need from the town, along with some little street games and equipment. And so for the cost of the event, you can sign out the trailer for from the town, take it to your block, and you've got like
Everything you need.
block
Everything.
party in a box. You've got it all set up to
That'd be really
create
neat.
like a little fun event. So I'll send you the link about that.
I think that's great. That was part of the reasons I included on it. I know it really had just been, it kicked off from the Play Street conversation with Barb, but that's why I
Right.
included and block parties, because I thought those were fun things that I know other communities do, and every now and again people ask, but it's not something that happens too often here, and maybe, we could tie that in.
There
So
is an
I think
interest.
that's a neat idea.
Yeah.
And would simplify things a lot, instead of Public Works having to drop off barricades and pick up barricades, and they do that now,
Right.
but yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Instead, they would sign that they're checking out the trailer and that the trailer
Right.
includes these things, and they have to bring them back at the end.
I think that's a neat idea, yeah. I'll look at
That's
that
really
for
neat.
sure. So, okay.
All right. I have no other business. Mick, do you have anything else?
Nope, I have nothing else.
Then I think we're good. I will write up that little section on advisory committees and regarding the park fees. We didn't really come to any conclusions. Maybe I'll just write something else. I'll write what I have, and we can look at it more at our next meeting and maybe formalize something for the board at that time.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, you were kind of playing pin the tail on the donkey with that one, and flying blind. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, when do we want to do our next meeting?
Good question. what day do we want to make them on now? Do we want to continue on a Wednesday, or?
Wednesdays are fine. Any day really is fine. I don't know if you want to try to keep it that, I know it would just make it a couple week turnaround, but if you want to try to keep it that first week.
Something in the packet for the 13th, so that would work
Yeah.
for me.
So the 7th?
7th?
Okay.
And do we want to go back
in the
to,
morning?
I'm good with the 10 a.m. That works for me if it does for
It's
you.
fine.
It works for me too.
Generally, yeah, okay.
Okay. July already.
I know. Phew, I know.
July 7th, 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how that works.
All right. I'll send out some notes when I get a chance, tonight or tomorrow. And
Great.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think we're done.
All right.
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.